A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. It is a Saturday morning and I'd love to welcome you to the studio. We have amazing guests as always. I always say we have amazing guests, but it is true. We have the most amazing people that cross our paths by way of all the programming we bring to you right here at ITV in Sunning Hill, Johannesburg. We're going to be talking to Shiraz Sirkoth. He's written a book called Through the Eyes of an Ordinary Employee. We're also going to be talking to Laura Parker about girls and boys of South Africa. But right now we're going to be talking to a very amazing woman. She's a self-made woman. She has truly been through the mill of life. She has gone through many different business activities. She is now with an organization called Global Women Organization, and she's here to talk about her journey and to inspire other women. So if you're in a situation where you feel I'm nothing, I won't ever amount to anything, my life is empty, I have no purpose, then this is the woman you need to hook up with. Her name is Rukhsana Moden, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to this amazing woman. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, Julie. I'm so humbled that you are having me as a guest on your show. I'm so honored, actually. I've heard so much about you and I admire the show. So Jazakallah for having me. And I feel very blessed that I'm here, that I can share my journey. So my inspiration is, if I could help one woman, one person change their life, then I've actually accomplished something in my life.
Well, alhamdulillah, in the few minutes before the show started, we've been chatting off air, and in just those few minutes, you've blown me away. I am so inspired. I can't believe the journey you have undergone in life, and very especially it is Women's Month. We don't need an excuse for us to accolade and to praise other women. I think we need to be doing this all the time. We need to be holding other women's hands, and we need to be loving them and telling them how good they are. But because it is Women's Month, I'm honored to have you in studio this morning to talk about your story. Let's start at the beginning. What is the Global Women's Organization?
So Global Women has been created by Marilla and 4 founders, 3 other founders, so it's 4 members. And she created the magazine.
You remember as well, obviously.
I'm actually one of the directors. So what actually happened is Marilla is based in the UK. She's originally from Albania. And she saw the need of women fearing asking each other, the cattishness. And she created, this is her magazine called Global Woman.
Right.
This is Veronica Chu from Success Resources. That is the woman that puts in the Robert Kiyosaki's, the Oprah Winfrey's, all the big boys that speak. She actually gets these events together for them.
Can you just hold it up a little higher? There you go. Okay.
Okay. So she has Global Woman, and this is the owner of Success Resources, which is Richard Tan, and this is Global Man.
Okay.
Because she realized that men are so instrumental in helping women empower themselves that there was no need to exclude them. And when I was in London in January to speak at an event, somebody insisted that I meet Marilla. When I met her, I was blown away, because the word kept on coming out of her mouth, which resonated with me, about collaboration, not competing. And for me, that's my mission, is I don't need to compete with anybody but myself. And this was an organization about saying, I'm going to showcase Julie instead of me. I loved that concept. It was not going to be about a me, it was going to be about a we. And that is who I am all about. So when I got there, I had a talk in front of her ladies, and she just jumped up and announced that I'm going to be the director of South Africa. I was like, no, this is not going to happen.
What were you doing at that time before attending this talk?
So I'm currently a business coach. I help people start their businesses, grow their businesses, and explode their businesses. I have a second company, which is called Renwick Business Brokers, which is I help you sell your business safely So I vet the client for you. I make sure that he is compliant, that the handover and the sale is done in a proper manner. So I have brokers that also belong to my franchise. And then I have a second part, which is Apex Development, which is a training company, which I'm using now more just about uplifting our entrepreneurs in the youth and women market. I'm not excluding men, but I just see there's such a huge gap that women fear the taking that step forward to say, I need to be educated. I need to know how to open my business.
So if a young person or a woman approaches you, she may have a cottage industry or she wants to break out, open up her own business. How does she then subscribe to Apex? Is it in classroom training? Is it online? What is it that you do with these people to take them to the next level or give them enough confidence to forge ahead and open up their business or succeed, take their business to the next level?
So basically, I start with the process of it. What is your love? What is your passion? If you don't love what you're doing, if you're not passionate about it, you're not going to make money of it. It's going to be a trudge. You're going to hate doing it. And eventually you're going to stop doing it.
So this is one-on-one between you and the client?
It's a one-on-one. I actually find out what is their purpose, what is their mission, what is their value give back. There has to be a give back. If I'm giving you my free time, which costs a lot, and if I'm giving you my love and my attention, I expect you to give back, pay forward. One. So I don't want...
So you don't charge for that consult?
I do lots of it purely out of charity. There are companies that contact me to brand their businesses, grow their businesses, and there are people that can afford me. But there are also other people that don't have the money. And for me, that is my passion. So for me to mentor them at that level, I have, to be honest, when I started my journey on being a businesswoman, I found doors closed in my face. I literally went from owner to owner and begged people, can you show me how to run a petrol station? I've trained, but I need the practical training. People were like, no, this is confidential. We can't get you in. And then I realized how difficult it is for other women, and especially women don't have the confidence to just approach somebody and say, can you show me what you do? Because everybody's secretive and holding the information.
Because they're afraid you're going to take away. I think the thinking is that if I share with you, you're going to take away from me and I'm going to be left with less. And it's not about that, is it?
I believe that
the more you share, the more you grow.
Absolutely, absolutely. I coach people worldwide. I have students in over 12 countries now. Sweden, France, London, Germany, Switzerland.
How do you do that? Via Skype?
Via Zoom. I use Zoom. Zoom is much better because it records for my clients. But for me, it's like, I don't believe that if I share my knowledge with you, that I will be less of anything. I actually feel so empowered, and my soul, my spirit is like doubled the minute I share my knowledge. And I know that Allah has created my Rosie for me. If I show you something and you make millions of it, that is your Rosie from Allah. So I am not to question. I am just the vessel that has passed the knowledge on to you.
Alhamdulillah, but you started, your beginnings were extremely humble. Let's start right at the beginning. To see from humble beginnings, you hear country director or director of South Africa Global Women. That's huge. How long did that journey span? And let's talk about the beginning of the journey.
So I come from a very humble home, and my parents instilled absolutely, both of my parents are marhum, but my late dad started the values in me when I was a little girl. And I think the entrepreneurship mind was always there. My dad worked very hard, studied. My dad actually became one of the first Indian bank managers in South Africa. And I think that was my inspiration, that I can be bigger, I can be better. When I finished schooling, we didn't have money for me to go to university. And I always felt that I'm much more than this. My first job was as a receptionist, but within a span of 2 years, I moved into careers that, I was truly blessed. It was by purely circumstance, by chance, things just happening. I was a marketing and branding manager in Mnet. And that was purely because my manager had cancer and passed on, and there were projects that needed to be fulfilled. So that was for me, it was an opportunity. It was very sad she passed on, but it was so amazing.
But you saw a gap and you took it. You proved that you were worthy of stepping into those shoes.
Absolutely. And I moved into training at Angloval. I became one of their training bursary officers. I started doing their training. Then I had like, oh my God, I have this amazing gift that I want to train people. I want to teach people. I want to empower people. So this brought a love about in me. And I was married to... I wasn't in a very good relationship. I was in a very verbal, mentally abusive relationship. which I felt very stifled in. And I tried my best, 24 years, and then we had to walk apart. But I opened up a business, a BP. I purchased my first BP.
How did the troubled relationship, the abusive relationship, make this strong woman sitting in front of me? Did you kind of say to yourself at the time that I'm being downtrodden upon, but I'm going to pick myself up and make something of myself and show the world that I can survive and I will survive?
I must be honest with you, and I find more women are doing that. I had two lives. I had the businesswoman life, and I was very successful, and nobody ever knew the kind of life I had at home.
You kept it secret.
Yes.
And how many women are not doing that? And it is Women's Month, and when they hear your story, we hope and pray that more women come out and say, stop, enough is enough.
Yes.
I need to reclaim my identity, and I need to pick up the pieces of my life and make something of it.
Absolutely.
Let's go for our first ad break. As you can see, I have an absolutely dynamic, strong woman in studio with me, and this month is about showcasing such women. I'm so glad that Ruxana Moden has crossed my path, because she makes me see and believe that there's always a tomorrow, and there's hope for each and every one of us, and each and every one of us can be anything and everything we want to be. Let's go for our first ad break. Welcome back to this dynamic woman, Ruxana Moden. She is the director in South Africa of the Global Women's Organization. We stopped at the point where you said you came out of an abusive relationship, you were running 2 successful petrol stations. What happened then? What was the next step in your journey? Did you decide that you needed to move out of the relationship, reclaim your life and move on?
I think the difficult choice was standing up against society beliefs that I was a woman. My mom always instilled in me, keep trying, you're a woman, it's okay. And
being judged by everybody.
Yes. And my partner that I left is a good person. It is just, unfortunately, we didn't get along in the sense that we should have been able to. In many ways, I used to look for reasons to blame. Okay, we're business partners, we're doing a business together, because we never had a life together. It was very difficult. And when I walked away, I think it was the best decision for both of us, because he's happier. He is in a relationship, he's married, and today we can have a conversation without us actually getting into an argument.
Do you have children?
I have 2 sons, amazing boys, and that's my why in my life.
Alhamdulillah.
I have Yusuf, he's 26, and I have Arif, he's 17.
MashaAllah. So you now moved on, and when did you had these 2 filling stations? Talk to us about your journey moving forward.
So 5 years ago, I made the decision that I'm going to leave my husband, and I sold my businesses, I sold my assets, my homes, and we had
That must have been a
amicable.
very big decision. What was going through your mind when you decided to do that?
I think the most important part, and I help women through that, was it wasn't the money, it wasn't the success. I didn't have a fulfillment in my soul. I had no joy. I had no happiness. My health was taking a toll. I got insomnia to an extent where the doctor said my adrenaline wasn't shutting down. And I had to ask the questions. I lost my parents at a very young age. My late dad passed away at the age of 52, heart disease. My late mom passed away at the age of 56. She died from lupus. For me, I had to ask the question, is all this success worth it? I never had time for my creator. I never had time for me. Before you fill your cup of love for anybody else, you need to fill your own. I had none. Before you put the mask to save somebody else on oxygen, you need to have oxygen in your own body. So I literally felt like a corpse, walking dead. I had no purpose. I had no passion. I had no love for any particular thing. It was like I was just a zombie going from day to day. And alhamdulillah, it was very difficult when I sold my businesses. I became very depressed because I had no purpose. I had no husband. I felt like a failure. And I had an amazing woman that came into my life. And she said to me, you need a transformational coach. You have such amazing power within you. You killing yourself inside. And it was a journey of 3 weeks. I went to her and I thought, there's some catch to this. Something is not right, that I'm feeling alive all of a sudden. And the greedy
So it was 3 weeks of coaching.
Absolutely. And I became greedy, hungry for
more.
once in my life. And then I said to her, I want to become like you. And she said, oh, I don't understand. And I said, I have to be a transformational coach. So I dedicated a year of my life to go and study, to become a transformational coach. And then, like I said, I was so greedy with yearning for knowledge that I became a master transformational coach. I started learning how to do negative emotional therapy, how to help people set up goals.
What is negative emotional therapy? First time I hear about it.
Negative emotional therapy is to help people overcome negative events that have happened in their lives. Trauma of bad relationships, rape, robberies. In South Africa, it's so rife, and you can't get past those if you don't have somebody help you through the threshold. A transformational coach is a person that takes you through steps to help you. You don't become a new person, you become the best version of you. It allows you to say, yes, this has happened to me. It has nothing to do with me, and I'm moving forward.
When we look at relationships, and I'm sure that a lot of the work is also on personal relationships, oftentimes we blame each other. It's always about you. You make me feel this. You haven't done this. You're holding me back because of all your bad habits. You're holding me back because you're not communicating with me, etc., etc., etc. How do we get past all of that and realize that, you know, we too have to take responsibility? How do we start changing and put health and vitality back into this relationship, be it a business relationship or a personal relationship?
I think for me, the most important thing is I live with 3 values. I wake up every single morning, and I train that to my clients as well. The first thing is, what am I grateful for? I wake up and I'm like, Shukr to Allah, I had an amazing warm bed. There's many people that don't. I wake up in the morning to the laughter of my 2 boys. I'm blessed. I wake up and know that I had a full tummy of food last night. How many people are hungry? So I look at what am I grateful for? Because the minute you feel grateful for something, the love comes in.
And the purpose.
What do I love about myself? I am curvy. I have cellulite. I have fat thighs. But you know what? They're mine. They're my gift from Allah.
Yes.
So I love every part of me. I don't wake up in the morning and say, oh, my nose. Or why do I have freckles? I love every part because I'm unique. Allah has only created one of Rukhsana Moden. So I train people to understand that there's only one of you. Whose standards are you following? Your own or somebody else's perceived magazine, what you should look like, or perceived society, what you should be like?
And if you give yourself permission to love yourself, other people will love you.
Absolutely.
Let's move on then and talk about your ongoing journey after the transitional training. You then obviously started coaching people. And of course, you alluded to how Global Women started happening. What is it that you're doing with Global Women in South Africa? How does one subscribe to it? What is the core vision of Global Women in South Africa?
So Global Women was officially launched in South Africa on the 17th of July. We had a huge...
this year?
We had a huge launch, and it was actually sponsored by Image Lifestyle Venues. Marilla was down in South Africa, and it was amazing. Media was there. It was a beautiful... transition of taking Global Women into South Africa, our culture. She's amended it for South Africa. It's very European, global, but she amended it for South Africa specifically so we can fit our culture, our differences, our blend. And we've had a breakfast. So every month we have a breakfast and we have a mastermind. The mastermind is about you learning, and the breakfast is about you networking. It's very fun. It's not a stiff and very prim and proper. It's about having fun, having play, it's a sense of you just having this womanhood.
So anybody watching us this morning could become a member of Global Women.
Yes.
How do they do it? What does it cost them? And you're talking breakfast and mastermind. I'm sure there is so much of learning that goes on and networking opportunities.
Absolutely. So we have our first, we have a get together. This is just networking. A lot of people sponsor Global Women to say we want to put them in our area. Can we have a tea? Can we have a high tea? Can we have a dinner? But it's supporting Global Women to bring it to their areas. So we're having one on Friday evening at 5 o'clock up until 10 o'clock. There's no cost for that one. And you just come in as a guest. You have to RSVP because the venue can only cater for 100 people. The second one we're having will be at Profound Center. And our guests, our viewers can actually contact me directly to find out. There is a diary where we have a monthly meeting and we have masterminds. A lot of them come in. I prefer people not just to become a member, because you're paying a membership fee, you never even experience the culture, the fit. Once people are there, I must be honest, they love it. I'll give you an example. Shabana is one of my members. She came to the launch, she came for the breakfast and she signed up. She just loved the concept. Shabana spoke 3 days ago in London. She picked up the phone so excited and she said, Rukhsana, I'm already doing business with Peru. I'm doing business with Mexico and London.
So you're saying that Global Women is offering women business opportunities?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So when you become
it's not just about a high tea with a couple of women who've got nothing to do. They just want to socialize and get out of the house. They have probably boring lives. This is something for them to do.
So Global Woman is calling on women, men that want to start a business, have a business, want to grow their business, brand their business, but they want to take their brand globally. Even if they don't want to take their brand globally, network in South Africa safely. So if you said to me, Rukhsana, I need a person that is a good caterer, we have them in the group and say, she has catered for this function, she has done this. So there's no trial and error. It's a sisterhood. It's about me saying, Julie is one of our members. Is there any way you can support her in this organization? We've had 4 ladies contact me in the time that Global Woman is about, and they said, we're doing this charity thing. We don't have money for you. And I'm like, of course I want to do it with you. I truly love supporting. We were at the Pink High Tea on Sunday. I was invited as a guest by Yasmin Aku at Image Lifestyle. I was blown away by the phenomenal women that were there. And that's what I'm here for, is to help support these organizations. It's not about Global Women. It's about Global Women supporting every organization, every woman, every business. Be it you want to be a startup business or you just need the knowledge. That is a platform for you. And I mean, for me, I love it. I love when my members come up to me and say, oh my God, in this room I've got 2 women that are just become my business partners. I never had the money. I had the idea. Yes, that's what I want. I want somebody to say, I have the money, I don't have the thinking capacity right now, I'm tired. Okay, I got a little young girl here. She's got amazing ideas. We're going to partner. So a sisterhood came about. That's what it's about. That's why the motto of Global Woman is, let's collaborate, not compete. For me, it's fun.
Okay, so for people wanting to sign up, they can go to your website.
Yes.
What sort of costs a yearly membership fee are we talking about?
Membership for Global Women right now, so normally it's £500. But Mirla came into South Africa and I've said to her, you have to do something for my woman. That's who I am.
It's out of reach for most women.
And so she reduced it to £300. But beyond only £300, she threw in something else as well. Because I asked her that I want to show our women the value of this magazine. Marilla then gave an offer to say, which does actually cost quite a lot to advertise in here. Each member that signs up gets 1-page advert, be it about who Julie is or who Julie's business is. So you get advertised in this magazine. And quite a lot of my members have already appeared in the magazine. So that's what it's all about. So there are other women that just want to come for the breakfast. They don't want to become members. And that they pay for their fee. Some breakfasts are sponsored. And if they get sponsored, I don't charge. So we've had few very free breakfasts because caterers have come on board, venues have come on board. So that is for me, I would try to have them free. Some are not, so we have to charge. And the maximum we charge is between 3 or 350 Rand, because we do try to ask the people that we using the venues to support us.
Okay, unfortunately that's where we're going to have to leave it. Just very quickly, what else do you want people to know about Global Women before we sign off?
If anybody wants to contact me to find out more, there is a website. It's www.globalwoman.co. If they want to contact me directly, because many women want to ask the question, how can they come through? They could contact me via Facebook on Rukhsana Modan, ROOKSANAMODAN, or they can contact me directly on 083 941-8922.
And currently, how many members are you sitting with in South Africa?
We're sitting on 35, and at the moment we're going to have an evening now. I only sign up once people have experienced.
Absolutely. So that's where we leave it. I hope to talk to you again sometime soon in the future.
Thank you so much for having me. May Allah reward you for your time that you've given me.
Amen. Thank you for being here. Ruxana Mouden, amazing woman, extremely dynamic, as you've just heard, talking about global women in South Africa, but also you heard her life's journey. She's truly started at very humble beginnings, and she's grown and grown and grown. And I don't think her journey is going to end, not in a long, long time. She's here to touch people's lives in a very positive way. Don't go away. We're still going to be talking to Shiraz Sirkoth about the book he's written, and we're going to be talking boys and girls South Africa. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back. And next on the show, we're going to be talking to an author. His name is Shiraz Sirkoth. He's written this book called Through the Eyes of an Ordinary Employee. It's all about the working world, the frustrations, the highs and the lows. And I think most of us who have been through our working lives will have experienced something or the other that's been contained in this book. And if you drop us an email this morning, a couple of you can walk away with one of these books. I think it's almost a masterclass of when you are frustrated in the workplace and you have a horrible boss perhaps, just go to the book, reference that chapter, and then you'll know exactly how to deal with the person in question. But let me introduce you to the author Shiraz Sirkoth, and let's get his story told through the eyes of an ordinary employee. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Through the eyes of an ordinary employee says to me that you must have had a lot of drama through your working life for you to eventually decide, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write the story of the corporate world. What goes on possibly in offices and in boardrooms? Is that what happened for you?
Initially, that's what happened, but I think it wasn't only that drove me to write the book. I think it was more of a lot of us, like employees, ordinary employees out there getting together, always, whether it's a tea break or coffee break, sitting together and saying, moaning, groaning, saying, wow, if this manager wasn't here today we would have had the best day of our lives. And, I put all of that together and I said, you know what, it's time to write something that hasn't been written before, something that's a first, something that employees talk about, moan about, but never have the guts to do it. So I went out there and I penned down my own thoughts firstly, and decided to put them into a book.
So it's called Through the Eyes of an Ordinary Employee. Really what you're saying, it's the perspective of the employee. In the book, have you ever given the perspective of the leader or the manager if you have sketched a scenario of perhaps something that went badly wrong in the office? Do you give both sides of the story or only the perspective of the employee?
Absolutely. Thanks for the question. I give both sides of the story because I think it's important and critical for people to know and understand. But the build up to that excitement leads to where the ordinary employee goes through a different transitions in his career, and he meets different people along the way. And then obviously from a management perspective, how he fits into all of that.
When we look at employee and employee, there's always that disconnect, or so we believe. There's this disconnect. You will always be the horrible boss, and I'll always be the lazy employee or someone that doesn't use initiative. And that's the way we see the world through our perspectives.
Sure.
Writing the book, and obviously you've passed it on to the powers that be, friends, family, relatives. What have they said about your perspective of the employer?
Some people that I've given a book to, and apart from family and friends, people that I know, have said that, I've nailed it. I've actually written something that they're living through right at this very moment in time. And some of them said, this is actually my life. Did you copy my life in this book? And I said to them, no, this has been happening for a long time, and it's just being brought now out into the open. It's like, people believe that it will never happen, you'll never write about it, but it's actually real life. Right now, as we're speaking, some of these events are taking place.
Aren't you worried that this is what's happening in the working world, that 90% or more employees are complaining about horrible bosses, and in their eyes a horrible boss is possibly a bully, bully in the workplace. We have bullies in the schoolrooms, we have bullies in our homes, and then now in the workplace you're having a bully as well. Do you talk about how to address the problems, or is it just the issues that the employee goes through? This is what we're having to face, and you've decided to write a book.
I think what it does is it takes you through the perspective of an ordinary employee, exactly all the things that an ordinary employee goes through under various leadership styles. And then what it does is it highlights the behavioural categories that managers succumb to. So what it then does towards the end, it says that all is not lost. There is hope, but it's how you as an employee address the situation. I think at the end of the day, it's the human interactiveness, that we have this connectedness. Whether you're manager, employee, at the end of the day, you got to go back to your manager and you got to try and find a common ground.
Easier said than done. In the book you talk about, is it a management in crisis? You talk about the questions you ask, is it leadership failure? Is it lies that they tell you? Or, is it other factors? So in writing the book, obviously you're talking your personal experience. You're also talking about experiences of friends and family and colleagues. How much of what you've put in the book have you tested through management's eyes?
Like I said, some of the managers that I spoke to have said, well, you know what, we weren't aware that we were doing certain things, because sometimes it's so deeply embedded in their character that they behave in those kind of ways, and nobody has ever rectified them. Nobody has ever had the guts to stand up and say to a manager, well, look, without attitude, without arrogance, without any malicious behavior or intent, walk up to your manager and say, you know what, I really believe that the way that you treated X, Y, and Z was not right. Maybe you should have addressed it in a different forum. And they say, wow, you're highlighting things that we took for granted because nobody ever else gives us feedback. So some of them did like it, and some of them says, no, you know what, you're way off the park. If an employee is bad, this is how he or she should be treated, which I disagree with. Because at the end of the day, like I said, if we sit around the table, leaders all over the world do it, where there's differences in thinking, ideas, they sit down and come together to some kind of consensus. And when you reach a consensus, that's where you can move forward. But when you have no consensus, then you're going to have a problem.
When we talk leadership and failures of leaders, do you not think that employees need to also be taking responsibility? Is it a break in communication, misunderstanding? Is it a situation of one party expecting way too much of the other party, and because the expectations are not met, there's a lot of frustration that sets in, and thus the employee or the employer becomes very disillusioned, and that then becomes a very troubled relationship?
Initially, what starts off as a good relationship when you first join an organization. So you have that kind of transition period where you learn about the culture, the vision and mission of the company. But as you get along, as you go along, from time to time, and you have this manager that comes along, excuse me, a manager comes along and he then decides he's going to manage in a particular way or have a particular leadership style. So what happens is that an employee, you have to either adapt to it, or you're going to have then it becomes problematic, and obviously the relationship does become cancerous. But it depends on the leader that you're dealing with.
You've written this book, and in the book you also talk about your story. The chapter is entitled My Story. What is your story all about? And have you ever approached any one of your managers in a situation where you were so frustrated that you were ready to walk out? So let's start with your story first.
Okay, so my story was that exactly as per in the book, what I was going through, the experiences that I was feeling right at that point in time. I don't want to delve too much into the nitty-gritty or detail of it, but what happened is that because of a breakdown in communication, as they call it, or sometimes you don't see eye to eye with your manager. So when I try to address my stories, when I try to address the situation on numerous times, not just I've just isolated one incident of that my story to add to the book, but numerous times I had the opportunity to address the situation, but I was completely shut down. And I was shut down not because of my ideas or my ideology. I was shut down because I was seen to as knowing too much in the office. And then you become branded because
The troublemaker.
You're a troublemaker. You want to do changes. You want to make changes. People get stuck in a comfort zone, and once you're in a comfort zone, you don't want to get out of that zone. You believe things should stay and remain the same. And me on the other hand believe that if there's a better way of doing things, and if it can add value, why not? Let's try. And that's my perspective of life. If there's a better way we can do it, why not? Let's try. And if we fail, at least we've tried. But if we keep on doing this repetitive, mundane tasks without trying, without saving costs, without being innovative, where do we go? What do we look forward to?
Clearly, you sound very brave, and you sound like the guy that's not going to sit down in a corner, keep quiet, and take whatever the boss is dishing out to you. Would I be correct in assessing you as being
Absolutely.
someone that's going to speak up for yourself and your
Absolutely.
colleagues? Has that ever cost you your job?
Yes, it has.
It has.
Unfortunately. But you know what? Because I stand on firm principles, and I stand by those principles, and at that point in time it might have been the silly thing to do, because you know that impulsive emotional behavior, it could be, but you know what, it was a lesson, because none of my colleagues believed that I would stand up. So I stood up, and when I stood up I had to pack my bags and walk out. But I did it, and I don't regret it. I think it made me stronger. At that point in time I thought to myself, there's two things: either I'm going to stand up, or I'm not going to, and I'm going to just carry on like everybody else, follow and toe the line. And
Quite a lesson to learn, isn't
Absolutely.
it? Okay, let's go for our first ad break. Shiraz Sirkoth is here talking to us about a book he's written. It's called Through the Eyes of an Ordinary Employee. If you drop us an email, of course the email address is scrolling at the bottom of the screen, you stand a chance to walk away with one of these books. And I think it's a must-have. If you're in the corporate jungle, then this is definitely a must-have. Shiraz talks about his experiences, and he talks about the different types of bosses that's going to cross your path, and the situations you'd find yourself in, and how to navigate your way out of all of that. Do stay with us. We're going for our first ad break. We're talking about the book Through the Eyes of an Ordinary Employee. If you drop us an email, we have a couple of these books on giveaway this morning. Inshallah, you can then, with compliments of Shiraz Sirkoth, the author, you can take away one of these books this morning. Now, Shiraz, when we talk about the workplace, there's a lot of dynamics that goes on, because you have different personality types depending how big or small your office is and the people that are involved there. It is definitely an area for misunderstandings, miscommunication, dislikes, fights, blowouts, possibly even, as you say, the potential of losing your job is also great in an environment like this. There's also situations of brown-nosing, playing favorites, etc. What is your advice? And I know you've contained it in the book, but let's, to the people watching us this morning, what would you say to them? How do you navigate yourself in a space like that, but still be true to yourself? Because, you know, I could keep quiet. I see something going down between two people, you know, the manager and a colleague or whatever, and I know it's wrong, and I don't intervene because I might lose my job or might behold into a disciplinary or whatever it is. What's the right thing to do in a situation?
I think firstly what we need to do is a matter of how you approach the subject. I think you need to identify what the real issue is, because we all tend to make assumptions based on whatever we hear or we see. And I think sometimes that perception might not be the reality. I think you need to sit down with that person or that manager and say to them in a private, alone, without any people around you, and you sit down and say, look, I've noticed this kind of behavior, I noticed you commented on certain thing and I wasn't comfortable with that. what did you mean by it? Get clarification first. I think what we do is we jump to that conclusion that, you know what, this is a horrible boss, this is, you know, this is the way things are, but we don't understand the context. And because we don't understand the context, the conclusion we get to is the wrong conclusion. So I would say, approach the situation by asking for a one-on-one, have a coffee with your boss outside of the office or in a quiet space, just the two of you, have a discussion, and you'll have a different answer. It will help you.
What about favoritism? If you perceive that there's favoritism going on in the office, how do you broach that issue? Because I think a lot of us are, have found ourselves at some time or the other in that situation.
Favoritism is very difficult because you and I may be sitting next to each other and you might be the boss's favorite and I might say something and you might be giving the boss all that information. So what happens is, over a period of time, the boss has got so much of information that you and I shared in confidence, and you have now shared that information with your boss. So obviously he will protect you at whatever cost it may be. That's where you get this favoritism coming in. So if you decide you want to do X, Y, and Z and I want to do it, I won't get the opportunity to leave early for lunch or leave or go home early for the day. Whereas you can do it time in, time out. You can come in late, leave early, because we call them not favorites in the workplace, but the manager's bestie. That's what they call them, the besties. So it's difficult because you got two people that you have to deal with. You got a manager and the bestie to deal with, and together the manager has got the power because he oversees you, and the bestie then also has power over you because whatever you say is then witness to what the manager can hold you against. Unfortunately, in the corporate world, the corporate behavior, it becomes very sneaky, it becomes very dodgy. You got to be very careful what you do. You got to be. That's why I believe, rather say something out in the open, in front of everybody, than hide in the corridor and gossip. Rather say, you know what, Julie, I'm not happy with your behavior today. But don't do it in front of everybody to show that you're attacking your manager. Do it in the quiet.
Okay, then there's also the issue around bullying, because a manager is in a position of power, and he or she can make your life as miserable as they wish. They can come in and just grind you down into the ground with the way they speak with you, the way they insult you, the way they possibly even talk about you behind your back to other employees, and that then eventually gets back to you. How do you deal with a situation like that? You're too afraid to broach the manager directly. Is it a good idea to go to an HR department? If you don't trust the people in the HR department, what is the recourse that's open to you? It's a very difficult one, but a lot of people do find themselves in a situation like that.
The answer to that is, I wouldn't be able to even answer that because
But you've written the book.
No, there's many ways, and that's just my take on how you can deal with a bully. And I don't want to share that on air, obviously, but I mean, the bottom line is there's a right way to do things and there's a wrong way to do things. So what you need to initially do is go up the hierarchical chain. So you'd go to your manager first and say, I want to address issues with you. If you don't get any success to that, you go to his manager and address it from there, and then you take it further and further, right until you reach to the CEO. And you involve HR in every step of the process, and you document everything that you do. You say the time, the date that you had a meeting, with who was present in the meeting, the issues that you raised, what was the outcome of it, was it resolved, wasn't it resolved, and is there still an outstanding? And I think that's the best way to do it, is to go forward and be honest about it, raise the issues through the proper communication channels, start with your manager, have a one-on-one, you don't succeed, go to HR, you don't succeed, go higher than HR, then you go to the next level and the next level, right until you reach the CEO.
A lot of employees are afraid of doing that because one of two things, depending how big or small the organization is, if it's once the manager disagrees with you, he can make your life it could be very untenable, the relationship, to the point where you're so uncomfortable that, you decide it's best that you leave because it's just grinding you absolutely down. There's that scenario, and then the scenario you sketching out is go through the process. But what if you reporting directly to the head of the organization or the office for that matter?
Unfortunately, that's where your career at that company ends, and you have to make a decision. And the decision is either you're going to accept the behavior or the behavioral pattern the manager displays, and you know you can't go any further, and the second option is to move.
So the right thing to do is to follow the proper channels.
Correct.
If you are so broken down by this whole process, perhaps go for a bit of counselling or coaching or something privately to deal with this person who's giving you nightmares, and hopefully that will change. Maybe the direct approach and say, this is how I'm feeling about our relationship. So there's a couple of avenues open to you. Not all of them might give you the outcome you're looking for. What sort of advice, the do's and don'ts, do you lay out in the book?
I say don't. I'll start with the don'ts. Again, don't backbite. Don't get involved in unnecessary conflicts at work. Don't attack your manager. Don't
fight other people's. Don't take on other people's fights.
That's it. Because what happens, we get sucked into that kind of belief. Because if your manager's bestie, then I join the bestie, and now we're all against that employee. Don't do that. Steer away from that, and rather look for an amicable solution, and ask the employee and all who are fighting within your department, of course, if you all can sit down at a staff meeting or your team meeting and say, look, you know what? Because there is a space for general when we have meetings. Can we discuss this issue? Because you know what, 9 out of 10 times a manager won't want to do it in that forum, but try it anyway if your manager's open.
If you were a manager or the boss of a unit, what would you do differently given all the experiences you've been through and the book you've written?
I think, firstly, if an employee would approach me and say that, you know what, you're actually one of those horrible bosses and this is what you do, my first instinct would be to laugh at him. Because, well, not laugh in a sense, like I'd laugh it off as a joke to say, where do you, how did this come about? Because some of those managers are not aware of it, and this is an instance, a real life instance I'm giving you, where some of the managers say, I never did that, I never did that. How did you come to this conclusion? But on a serious note is that I would then say to the employee, I would take him aside, I'd say to them, I say, okay, let's set up a time out of the office. First of all, a nice place where where it's relaxed, where the environment is relaxed. Because in the office, sometimes the environment gets tested, and it gets, you uptight and all of that. So take you to a relaxed environment, have some coffee with you, and start off by discussing points and writing down, because managers don't write down.
Is it okay for a manager to perhaps own up to everything that is done wrong, apologize, start afresh with the employee, and hopefully the relationship can get better and more tenable as they go along?
A true leader does that. Only very few leaders do that, where they actually can build employees to that next level. Sometimes there is a communication breakdown, but if they both come to that common ground path and they say, right, we're willing to take a clean slate from here, nothing against each other, then they can move ahead. But if not,
we've got about 2 minutes to wrap up time. The one question I do need to ask you, do you believe team building exercises work?
In some instances they do, but in most instances people just participate because they have to participate.
Okay, and finally, everything you're saying through the eyes of an ordinary employee, and if you drop us an email, you would be able to get one of these books, Compliments Shiraz, Sirkoth. Everything you're saying and you're talking about through the eyes of an employee really is about respect and credibility, is it not?
Absolutely. It's about more than, it's also about living a life of peace and harmony within the corporate world. You can't go to work feeling you're going to be in trouble every day, all day, because of one person's behavior. You need to go to work to do your work.
And the boss can't go to work and he's in a bad mood because he had a bad night, or he didn't sleep well, or the baby was crying all night, and then take out his bad mood, come to work and start ranting, raving with all of the people around him and making everybody's lives an utter misery.
Yes. I think what it will highlight, and if we go back to the book, the instances take you through a journey. And this is what it is, a journey of my personal experiences penned down. And what it does is it then gives you anecdotes of how you can deal with certain issues like that.
So absolutely a must-have if you're in the workplace.
I must read.
That's all we have time for. Thank you indeed for sharing your story with us. And I do hope and pray that you have lots of future success in your work. And please, let your managers know that you've written this book. It is a huge achievement. They have nothing to fear from you. They just need to respect you for who you are And the fact that you have penned a book that's going to help other people, managers themselves, managers and employees.
Both.
So thank you indeed.
Thank you so much.
And that's the book we're talking about, Through the Eyes of an Ordinary Employee. Drop us an email and we certainly will forward a book on to you. We need to move on. Time for a next ad break. And when we get back, we're going to talk the Girls and Boys Club South Africa. And the final guest on the show this morning is Laura Parker. She's American. She's been in the country for the past 5 years and she's involved with the Boys and Girls Club South Africa. Let's hear what they're all about, and who knows, there might just be a space for you with the organization. Laura, morning, welcome to the program.
Morning, welcome. Thank you for having me.
Now, I know you come from the States. You've been here in the country for 5 years. What brought you to the sunny, bright and sunny South Africa?
Originally, I studied business at the Graduate School of Business in Cape Town. And when I finished my studies in the States, I thought, let me try to find a job in South Africa, and came through, and I'm still here.
Loving it.
Loving it, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so you then went on and you've joined an organization called the Boys and Girls Club of South Africa. What's it all about, and why should it be of interest to the general viewer?
Yeah, so Boys and Girls Clubs of South Africa has been around since 2011 in South Africa, and we run facility-based after-school programs for kids, meaning that every day between the hours of 2 and 6, we provide a space for kids to go in those kind of traditionally idle and unsupervised times when
absolutely.
Kids leave school, parents aren't at home, there's no one to help with homework, and so they come to the club every day. It provides that kind of consistent opportunity for them to be in a safe space after school.
So we're talking, what is it, a 4-hour period that they're spending with you? What happens at the club, and what age group are you targeting? And you're so correct when you say it's imagine parents are not at home, you may have a helper or not, and these kids are left to their own resources, and the mind boggles what they could get up to.
Yeah, exactly. Frightening. And most of our kids come from single-parent households who are surviving on limited income in very small houses with big households. So a place for kids to go, to play, to learn, to grow is a really relevant opportunity. And so we serve kids who are school-going and school-aged. So a typical day is homework help. So really having kids set that daily habit of doing their homework, keeping up with school. They get a meal, and then they pursue programs of their individual interests. So everything from sports and recreation to IT and career guidance, to life skills, to leadership, to community service. I always joke it's the one-stop shop for parents, because kids come, they get fed, they get their homework done, and then they get to pursue, programs and activities that suit their individual needs and interests.
And peace of mind for the parents, because the kids are supervised every step of the way. Just the peace of mind knowing that my child is in a safe space, in a very safe place. And also, and I think the bonus being that when I come home from work, the child's homework has been done. So there's no nagging about that, because oftentimes parents don't have the energy to sit down and still help out or supervise homework. That being said, Laura, let's talk about how widely you spread across South Africa, and who qualifies to get their child enrolled at this facility.
Yeah, so we've started small, and we started with a building in Pimville, Soweto in 2011, and we have since grown to 4 sites across the city of Johannesburg. So we work in partnership with the city of Johannesburg in their sports and rec facilities. I always say that we're the software, they're the hardware. We come in and run the daily programs, but we work in conjunction with the city because they have facilities in our communities where services are required. And effectively in January of every year, we run a registration process where any parent that brings their child through can sign their child up to be a club member, and we ask that they pay 50 Rand for the year. So it really is not
only 50 Rand for the entire year. Wow.
Yeah, and it's not meant to generate operating income for boys and girls clubs, but it really is a commitment fee from the parents to come through our doors, to see who we are, what we do, and to really establish a relationship with them and to create buy-in. So that 50 Rand is an important token of saying, I know who you are, I know where my child is, and I will work with you in this kind of relationship of developing the young person.
And age groups, do you have a start and a cutoff point as far as the ages is concerned?
Yeah, so we work with all school-going youth. So it's really meant to be a long-term intervention in a child's life and a habit. So every day after school, you go to the club. So we serve grade R up to grade 12, and then with our matrics, we work to place them in learnerships, internships, university, bursaries, work. I mean, whatever kind of suits what they as an individual want for their post-matric life.
So you've actually partnered with the City of Johannesburg. They fund you.
They provide in-kind resources. So they provide a facility and we run our programs in their facilities. It is a huge in-kind contribution because we don't have to build the buildings. We don't have to raise the money to build the buildings. We can raise the money to support the staff that are on the ground every day, the food, the tangible items for kids, and kind of the support structures that we're creating by utilizing the buildings.
I'm wondering if any form of assessment has been carried out on these children, you know, to see the positive impact that the centre is having. Because if you were not there, you wonder what their lives would be like. Would they follow through on homework? Would they be in a safe place? Would they be walking the streets, etc.? So has any such assessment been carried out to see the positive impact it's having not only on the children that are there, but on the extended families as well?
Yeah, I think ultimately the kind of core of what we do is child protection. So it's providing that safe space. And I think our most recent numbers, we're supporting 1,500 kids across the 4 sites in Johannesburg at the moment. And kind of as you build from that core of safety, we do impact studies to really assess, you know, what are the changes that we're seeing. And I think kids are more likely to see a future for themselves. They're more likely to stay in school. And, you know, with 45% of kids who start grade 1 finishing grade 12, we see a big part of what we're doing is encouraging kids to stay in school, helping them through, you know, year to year, staying on time to graduate. And I think, you know, that in and of itself is a huge contribution and a huge impact for keeping kids in school. And I think that's what the after-school sector as a whole is really doing across South Africa.
What happens if you pick up a troubled child, a child that has probably been abused in whatever way, mentally, sexually, physically, etc.? It might be the immediate family member that has perpetrated the violence. It might be strangers, or whatever the case may be there. But if you pick up on that situation, what is it that you guys do to try and help heal the child? And I'm sure you come across a lot of that.
Yeah, I think, ultimately we do have referral networks for, you know, for more kind of medical issues that we can't tend to. You know, we work with other NGOs in the individual communities where we are, with social workers and that sort of thing that we refer out to. But I think a big part of what we do is creating this space for kids. And when I say space, I don't mean the physical space. I mean an emotional space where they feel safe, where they have a sense of belonging, where they have a relationship with an adult that is mentoring and caring and guiding. And that relationship with the Boys and Girls Club really is what creates that positive impact. The reason that they're coming to the club is not because of homework help or tutoring or a meal or fun. The reason they're coming to the club is because there's an adult who knows their name, who knows their story, and who's not ma'am, who's not teacher, who's not mom, and who's somebody else in their life that can really provide an important and an impactful route for them towards the future.
Now, you threw out a number just now. I think you said 1,500 youth in the Greater Johannesburg area. What about the rest of the country? And I know that you as a club can only do so much. You're also limited as far as your resources are concerned.
Yeah.
But this is something that is sorely needed throughout the country.
Yeah.
your take on it? And
I would
are you
absolutely
guys
agree.
talking about this, how to move forward to cover and try and, touch that many more lives, save that many more lives that need to be saved?
Yeah, no, I think ultimately our goal is to be a national organization, and we are trying to develop a strong public-private partnership that's worth replicating. If we took this model to Cape Town or to Durban or to a smaller municipality, to say, you have these buildings, and as the municipality, this is what you can bring to the table, and this is where we can partner with you on it. There are a lot of great, networks of kind of after-school programs developing, and I see that as the more realistic kind of next step, is for us to collaborate with other after-school programs that are doing very similar work, and to kind of understand where we all are throughout the country, because ultimately we're doing similar work. Boys and Girls Clubs is a great option, but there are other options for kids, and they need to be readily available for parents to know that these options exist for their kids after school.
Absolutely. Let's go for our first ad break. Laura Parker is talking to me about the Boys and Girls Club South Africa, an option for parents to send their kids on a daily basis from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock, depending what time the parents get home from work. And this is just to make sure that the kids are in a safe space and supervised not only with their homework, but even their playtime. Stay with us. We're going to be talking more to Laura after the ad break. Laura Parker is my guest. In this final segment, we're looking at the Boys and Girls Club South Africa. It's really a safe space for kids to go to after school whilst parents are at work. Have other organizations in the area perhaps approach you guys for support, for assistance, or just to show them how to start up something like this? In your case, obviously it doesn't cost anything apart from a 50 Rand annual fee. We do know aftercare facilities does come at a price, and some parents aren't able to afford it. So because you can only take in so many people and not anymore, sadly. How can you help other establishments start up and still be affordable for the children of the community?
Yeah, so we're a nonprofit organization, so we are soliciting donations as part of our kind of efforts as an organization in order to not push those costs along to our beneficiaries or to our parents. We do work with a lot of kind of NGOs in our specific communities, in trying to work on capacity building initiatives that allow us to kind of spread the model, maybe in a less traditional way, so not in a standalone club way. We do work with City or South Africa, and they place service leaders in schools, and so we've worked with them to train service leaders to deliver after-school programs in a kind of more effective and efficient way. And so we're looking kind of more of those partnerships as we grow, because there is a significant investment required to have a Boys and Girls Club. There are 8 to 10 jobs that are created at every site, because those are the people running the programs every day. And with those positions and with the resources that are required to put on a program every day, it's not necessarily scalable to run thousands of these clubs across the country, although that's certainly our goal.
Would be the ideal.
Yeah.
There are a lot of unemployed people, stay-at-home moms, dads, also grandparents. They're watching us this morning and think, well, perhaps, I could be in service, I could do this for nothing, I can volunteer, or I could offer to take care of X amount of children after school every day. If they approach you, would you be able to perhaps give them some training? And would that be a viable option? If they can take 10 kids off the streets and take care of them in an after-school program with some sort of support from you, not necessarily financial, but just some sort of support, can they go ahead and do something like that?
Yeah, I mean, we would welcome people to contact us and see kind of how we could partner. We do get a lot of requests, honestly, but most of them are based on financial requests, which unfortunately we don't have that capacity. But we do have a partnership application, so if people want to email us and request more information or, a partnership kind of route, we would love to consider that. And effectively, our growth committee looks at all the different partnership requests and determines kind of what the most feasible are, given our also constrained resources on staff time and energy.
Okay, let's take an ad break. We'll be back with you in a minute or two. And we're talking about keeping children occupied after school. We do know that if there is no adult supervision at home, the kids can get up to all sorts of tricks and could get into serious trouble. So the girls, or the Boys and Girls Club of South Africa, have come to the fore. They are taking care of about 1,500 pupils or school-going children in the Greater Johannesburg area, and I think obviously peace and some sense of comfort for the parents of those kids. Nearly not enough. We'd like to cover the entire spectrum if we could. What about, we spoke about partnerships just now, but people who want to come on board are in a voluntary capacity. I know most of the staff are paid, but people who feel that I want to give back, I want to be of service, and approach you to join the club.
Yeah, I mean,
what can you offer them?
We have a lot of opportunities. I mean, every day we could accept volunteers, quite honestly, to help with kind of the day-to-day of meal prep and homework help, the extra kind of hands to help reading with kids, or tutoring older kids with more sophisticated subjects, are all opportunities kind of on a daily basis. And then we also welcome skills-based volunteering. So, assistance with our website, assistance with graphic design or videography, that sort of skill that we don't necessarily have as a nonprofit, but again, we would welcome people to reach out. We are looking for, more people to kind of engage with us and more champions across South Africa to really kind of preach the word of Boys and Girls Clubs.
A lot of people who want to be in service and do voluntary work are always a bit daunted by the fact that they've got to, fill out forms, and there's a lot of red tape involved. What's the situation like with the Boys and Girls Club of South Africa?
Well, because we have kind of staff and supervised places for people to come every day, I would argue that there's not a lot of red tape, but because we do work with children, our child protection policies and other policies do apply, just in order for us to protect our beneficiaries. I think in the long run, what we would prefer is, for somebody to say, I'm going to come once a month, every month, because ultimately kids develop relationships with people and they look forward to seeing that familiar face. And so it's a lot easier for us to also plan and to engage with somebody who's willing to come again and again, who's willing to develop relationships with us and with our kids, and to kind of help in that consistent way.
Okay, so where are you based for people who might want to volunteer their services, whether it's once a week or once a month? Where are you based? And as you've said, there's no criteria as far as qualifications or anything is concerned. Even if you come in just to read to the kids for a 10, 20 minutes at a time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We have a site in Pimville in Soweto, in Proteaglan in Soweto, in Bertram's in the inner city, just next to Ellis Park, and then recently in Alexandra. And then we are working on a 5th and a 6th site, as yet to be determined sites, in partnership again with the city of Johannesburg. But ultimately, those sites are operational every day, so it provides an opportunity to engage with people. We find that helping the older kids with their homework requires a little bit more sophistication because, physics and accounting and economics are a little bit, require a little bit more...
beyond some of our scope.
Right, but we also are interested, in engaging with people who are just interested in helping prepare meals, or working with our littlies and reading. So there's always kind of something to do, and there's always a hand that can be helped at a site with several hundred kids on a daily basis.
You spoke about the Child Protection Act, and obviously we need to ensure that our kids are not exposed to pedophiles and people with evil intentions, etc. How do you screen the people? And I'm sure lots of people would want to volunteer, but what's your screening process? Paid employees and also volunteers.
Yeah, so volunteers effectively come through and sign our child protection policy. They don't go through a background check like our staff do, who are there every day, but they are supervised by staff on a daily basis. So they're never alone with our kids, and they're working in partnership or in tandem with one of our staff who have been screened. So we also work with WMACA, Women and Men Against Child Abuse, and they do some of the training with us and kind of assist us in those harder to deal with cases where a child has been abused. And so again, there are these kind of partnerships that are throughout the NGO sector that really help us to focus on what we do, which is running after school programs, but we can partner or lean on others who may specialize in an area that we're not the experts in.
What about the school holidays? You run right through, and December time, that's the biggie, isn't it?
Yeah, so we run a full day during the school holidays. So the kids are there from 10 to 5. And it's really an opportunity for us to kind of do something fun with the kids. There's not a lot of academics going on because they are on school holidays. And so again, we've partnered with organizations to run new activities for kids. But every day, the club is there, and so we must kind of serve the needs of our beneficiaries, and their needs extend to the full day. So we do run a program for the full day, and then we do invite kids that are not members of the club to join the program as an after-school holiday program, because ultimately we know a lot of parents are looking for holiday programs for their young people, and so that's 100 Rand for somebody to join just as a holiday member.
And what does this do for you? Laura Parker, you've been involved with them for a while. Obviously, there's got to be something. I know you're a paid employee, but how does it fulfill you?
I think ultimately it's something intrinsic in you that you don't explain. I think people are called to this sort of work. They're not, it's not something you just end up in. It's definitely something you choose. It's always been kind of my career path. I've always wanted to work in nonprofits, and I've always focused on that. And so I think ultimately it fulfills me in a lot of ways, but ultimately I wouldn't stay in this work if I wasn't kind of inspired and moved and passionate about it on a daily basis.
Well, you carry on doing the amazing work that you're doing, touching those little lives, and obviously a lot of them need a hug and a bit of warmth, which probably they don't get at home, and just to know that they are someone who are worth something. And I think you fill that role, you and everyone at the centre, so good on you guys. Keep up the great work. Thank you for coming in to talk to us.
Thanks very much, I appreciate it.
And there you have it, Laura Parker talking to us from obviously the Boys and Girls Club South Africa, doing some amazing work. And if you do have the time and some form of expertise that you'd like to obviously volunteer and change and touch lives in a positive way, here's another organization you can think about and spend some time with them and hopefully share a bit of the love. And that's where we leave it. Thank you to the production team as always. And as always, please take care on the roads. And from me, Julie Ali, Assalamu alaikum and Khuda Hafiz. Ya hala, 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 ya hala. يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا يا هلا ويا